The following episode can be viewed on the YouTube channel Bernie or Bust Television.
Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. The skullduggery gets deeper and wider and smellier. Clinton campaign alums run firm that built failed Iowa caucus app. By Zachary Evans, National Review. The tech firm that designed the app used by the Iowa Democratic Party to report the results of its caucus is run by veterans of the Hillary Clinton 2016 presidential campaign. The Huffington Post reported the app was designed by Shadow, Inc., which was founded by Gerard Nemira and Krista Davis. Both Nemira and Davis worked on the Clinton campaign, Nemira as director of product and Davis as a software engineer, according to their LinkedIn profiles. Shadow's own product manager, Anna Rao, also worked on the Clinton campaign as special assistant to the campaign's chief technology officer. Shadow is an affiliate of Acronym, a Democratic nonprofit. Acronym's website states, it is an organization committed to building power and digital infrastructure for the progressive movement. Choke, gag, barf. The Iowa Democratic Party had refused to disclose the company building its caucus reporting app due to cybersecurity concerns. HuffPost reported that the Nevada Democratic Party also paid Shadow to design its caucus reporting app. The Nevada caucus will be held February 22nd. Local Iowa Democratic officials had warned state-level officials that there were problems with the app days in advance of the caucus. However, as of Tuesday, those problems were not fixed. Reports of the caucus results have been delayed due to issues with the app. We found inconsistencies in the reporting of 3 sets of results. In addition to the tech systems being used to tabulate results, we are also using photos of results and a paper trail to validate that all results match and ensure that we have confidence and accuracy in the numbers we report, IDP Communications Director Mandy McClure said in a statement on Monday night. This is simply a reporting issue. The app did not go down, and this is not a hack or an intrusion. The underlying data and paper trail is sound and will simply take time to further report the results. Bullshit! They have no intention of changing the results. They've come out on record before this was even published. Yahoo News. They've even said it's illegal. Quoting the opinion of the IDP attorney, the incorrect math on the caucus math worksheets must not be changed to ensure the integrity of the process. Whoa. No fucking way. This can't even be real. But wait, says Kyle Kalinske, it gets worse.
So it gets worse. It gets worse, believe it or not. I know it seems like it can't get worse. It does. So CNN wrote an article about this. By the way, they declared a winner. Half the news outlets are like, we can't declare a winner. We see, even NBC, Steve Kornacki, he's the numbers guy for NBC. He's like, I see outstanding incorrect data. Like, I see the mistakes. I'm not going to declare a winner when you added wrong. So half the news outlets, or maybe even more than half the news outlets, are like, we see the mistakes too. We see them. But CNN, right before Mayor Pete did a town hall, they go, 100% of the vote in, Mayor Pete wins. So they give him his 4th surge in positive coverage in an attempt to get him over the top in New Hampshire. And temporarily, he surged into a tie with Bernie in New Hampshire. Now, thankfully, he did terrible in the debate, and there was a Klobusurge, and the Klobusurge has taken away from Mayor Pete, so everything kind of went back to homeostasis, where Bernie has a relatively solid lead in New Hampshire. But this stuff is wild, man. But CNN says the following. What went wrong? While some precinct officials told CNN that the software performed as needed, there's the app, others experienced problems with the app and the reporting process. One precinct chair in Iowa described the failure of the app to CNN, saying that the app got stuck on the very last step when reporting results. which was uploading a picture of the precinct's results.
Get this.
The chair said they were finally able to upload the results and screenshotted what they uploaded. But the app showed different numbers than what they had submitted as captured in their screenshot. The app was changing votes. By the way, there's a follower of mine on Twitter who did a graph breakdown of where those mistakes were made. Sit down, you're going to be shocked to find this out. Most of the mistakes went against Bernie. The good news is the Bernie campaign is not taking this laying down. That night, a couple nights ago, where CNN said, 100% counted, Pete wins, the Bernie campaign did a press release where they said, actually, we won, not just the popular vote, but also the state delegate equivalents, which is what they're using to determine the winner. And they laid out the specific mistakes in the specific precincts that make Bernie get over the top. Listen, there's this guy by the name of Daniel who's been breaking this down 1,000 ways to Sunday, and he's on top of it, giving you all the specifics. Hey, there's a mistake here. Hey, there's a mistake here. If you count everything properly, Bernie wins. Bernie wins. So I know that. Now you know that. If they do try to say, when all's said and done, after the recount, that Pete wins, just know it's in the open. It's in the open. They're trying to steal the election.
They're trying to steal the election. But if you're still dubious, let's go back to an Eric Zeus article that we talked about in September. Beginning of September, this came out. America's billionaires congealing around Warren and Buttigieg. The Democratic presidential candidates who have been the most backed by billionaires have not been doing well in the polling thus far, and this fact greatly disturbs the billionaires. They know that the Democratic nominee will be chosen in the final round of primaries, and they have always wanted Pete Buttigieg to be in that final round. Therefore, they have backed him more than any of the other candidates. But what worries them now is that his opponent in that round might turn out to be Bernie Sanders, whom they all consider to be their nemesis. They want to avoid this outcome at all costs, and they might have found a way to do it. Dun dun dun! Elizabeth Warren. Here is how and why. Among the top 3 in the polling, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren, only Biden is among the top 5 in the number of billionaires who have backed him, and each of the other 4 candidates scores higher than Biden does in the number of billionaire backers. Furthermore, Biden is sinking in the polls. He was sinking in September. Now he is hemorrhaging. Consequently, Democratic Party billionaires are increasingly worrying that their party might end up nominating for the presidency someone whom they won't support. That person would be Sanders. And the Democratic National Committee, which relies heavily upon its billionaire backers in order to be able to win elections, just as the Republican National Committee relies upon Republican billionaire backers in order to win, is terrified by this possibility, alienating its party's crucial money bags. Now get this next part straight. This is the part that needs to be shared with all of your friends and neighbors. The saving grace for these billionaires, and for the DNC, increasingly seems likely to be Senator Warren's candidacy, which draws support away from Sanders and therefore gives Buttigieg a chance ultimately to win the nomination. That's why the DNC has paid Elizabeth, through talent agencies, to run. They paid her to stay out, probably. We don't know that for sure. But it's very clear that they paid her to come in this time. And why did she come in this time? She is a Bernie blocker. That's her job. Some progressive, eh? As of August 30th, the most comprehensive website reporting on the latest polling information and trend lines concerning the Democratic Party presidential primary contests, projects.economist.com, reports that more registered Democrats are considering whether to vote for Warren, 50%, than for any of the other candidates, including number 2 Biden, 48%, and number 3 Sanders, 38%. So those percentages have changed since late August. The percentages shown there as currently intending to vote for each one of those are 27% Biden, 18% Warren, and 16% Sanders. Buttigieg is currently only at 5% who are intending. The intending trend lines are downward for all of the candidates except Warren, whose trend line is steadily upward ever since May and is trending to surpass Biden at around the time when the primaries actually start in February 2020. And we would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you kids and that shaggy dog of yours. And if it wasn't for Elizabeth fucking up her healthcare message. So right now, as of the end of August, Warren clearly seems to be the likeliest winner of the Democratic Party's nomination. The likeliest possibility to block that would be for Sanders to reduce his loss of progressive voters to Warren, and for Warren to start trending downward while Sanders trends upward. So that's what the billionaires would want to prevent from happening. And that, good friends, and that, dear listeners, and that, fellow Bernie or Busters, is where the Bernie or Bust show comes in. We are trying to thwart the will of the billionaires. So keep sharing this show. On August 27th, the top website for Democratic Party activists, Political Wire, headlined, "Warren overtakes Biden as most favorable candidate." They reported that not only does Warren now edge out both Biden and Sanders in net favorability rating and top the entire field of candidates in that extremely important measure, but Warren is overwhelmingly the most frequently mentioned second choice of Democratic Party primary voters, which means that not only would the voters who intend to vote for her in the primary be delighted if she were to become the Democratic nominee, this outcome would also likely has produced the most unified party going into the general election. Now here's the good part. This in turn would mean that Democratic Party billionaires instead of Republican Party billionaires would almost certainly control the country after 2020. The country would be controlled by people such as Thomas Steyer and Donald Sussman. We've talked about Donald's daughter before. Instead of by people such as Sheldon Adelson and Paul Singer. It would be a different democracy, but not really much different. It would be like the difference between George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Notice I said W. Bush. It would be different in rhetoric and bumper stickers, but very similar in actual policies. This is the message that the vote blue no matter who neighbors of yours need to hear. It's not different in substance between Obama and W. For examples, whereas Bush invaded and destroyed Afghanistan and Iraq, Obama invaded and destroyed Libya and Syria, and all the while both of them supported the Sauds and Israel, and moreover both of them supported Wall Street, though Obama tongue-lashed them, which Bush didn't. So though the rhetoric is sometimes different, the basic policies aren't. The policies of Republican billionaires and of Democratic billionaires are basically similar. I'll let you read the rest. I'll link to it as always. But this is the point that really needs to be driven home, that Republican billionaires and Democratic billionaires, neither of them are your friends. Neither of them care about we, the people.
Buttigieg's campaign pulled something yesterday that is literally beyond parody. Our friend Ken Klippenstein over at The Nation caught the fact that the campaign has applied for a, quote, Best Brand Identity Award. I cannot think of a better nugget that captures the ethos of his campaign as he rides a media upswing after claiming a dubious victory in the Iowa caucuses. The application itself perfectly captures how hollow and useless the do-nothing small-town former wearer's campaign really is. Just listen to this quote. Is a millennial and a mayor of a blue-collar city in a heartland. He is unapologetically substantive, yet refreshingly salt of the earth. He is progressive, yet pragmatic. They add, quote, several candidates, primarily the women in the race, allowed personal identity to drive their visual brand. Pete's fresh vision for the future of America called on us to reimagine what was possible in presidential campaign branding. The great irony, of course, is that Buttigieg's campaign is built entirely upon his identity because there is no record or substance in anything that he says. They really saved the best for last in the results section. They write, quote, our color palette includes 9 colors, rooted in Pete's life in a heartland American city. The colors are intentionally evocative of the real heart of America, with names like Heartland Yellow and Rust Belt. Now, I know it's just a silly award application, but I wanted to highlight this for all of you before the New Hampshire primary, because it just shows how much of Buttigieg's campaign is just astroturfed neoliberalism. People who intentionally put words like Heartland Yellow and Rust Belt as colors are exactly the type of folks who have perpetuated the policies of the last 40 years to the detriment of the working class. And the funny part is that the people in New Hampshire have a very famous independent streak, and they appear to be waking up to this. Pete was effectively shouted down at a New Hampshire event where people called him Wall Street Pete. Let's take a listen.
Our one chance to defeat Donald Trump. And there's an American majority that is unified not just in who we are against, but in what we are for.
Who we're against is Bernie Sanders saying we're against the billionaires, both Democratic and Republican. Who Pete is for is those same billionaires. And he wants us to all unify around him so we can all suck up to those billionaires and let them bleed us dry.
Because we are for higher wages and the empowerment of workers.
No, we're not.
We are for honoring our troops by putting an end to endless war.
Wall Street Pete! Wall Street Pete!
Rough reception there. Pete's new pitch to New Hampshire is that he basically won some Obama-Trump counties in Iowa, and thus, that is why he might be able to win the general election. The truth of the race is actually that Pete's strength in those counties has much more to do with the utter collapse of Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren. You can actually see this in the sheer number of votes that he picked up in the second alignment throughout Iowa, and it shows that he was not at all anybody's first choice. Now, Pete got the New York Times to buy into his BS. He even got them to write that his campaign has been aided by electability. But as Nate Silver points out, that's not even true. In a Quinnipiac poll from 2 weeks ago, only 2% of all Democratic voters thought that Pete Buttigieg had the best chance to beat Donald Trump in November, whereas Biden, Sanders, and Warren all broke double digits. The only people that take Pete Buttigieg seriously are the media, who love his model of politics, preaching change while not changing anything. And of course, brand consultants who think that Heartland yellow is a real color and the ticket to winning the presidency of the United States.
Other polling shows that Sanders has overtaken Biden in terms of electability. Not all the polling, but this New Hampshire UNH Survey Center /@CNN poll shows that Sanders has overtaken Biden in that very important category of electability. Sanders 28%, Buttigieg 21%, Biden 12%, Warren 9%, and Klobuchar 6%. Gabbard is not out of it, 5%, Yang at 4%, Steyer 2%, Bloomberg 1%, Bennett and Patrick at 0%. It's interesting because electability is probably the crucial, well, it is. It's obviously the crucial point of concern for the 70% roughly of Democrat-leaning voters who absolutely prioritize defeating Donald Trump. So electability is huge. So here's the truth if your friends want to know. Kyle told you the truth that Bernie won Iowa. It's out in the open and it's clear. If you follow the trail and do the math, Bernie won Iowa. So tell your friends, let the gloating begin. Common dreams. Bernie Sanders takes lead nationally as Biden nosedives post-Iowa Quinnipiac poll. This poll reflects a fundamentally different race than pre-Iowa, one in which Bernie Sanders is the clear front-runner. By Eowyn Higgins, staff writer. Senator Bernie Sanders took first place among 2020 Democratic presidential candidates according to a new Quinnipiac University poll, the first time the Vermont senator has topped the survey. This poll reflects a fundamentally different race than pre-Iowa, one in which Bernie Sanders is the clear frontrunner, tweeted journalist Crystal Ball. You should follow Crystal on Twitter if you don't already. Sanders, whose Not Me, Us campaign message is resonating with voters across the country, particularly young and non-white voters, has the support of 25% of likely voters, while former Vice President Joe Biden comes in second with 17%. It's a 9-point drop for Biden after the Iowa caucuses, where the former vice president severely underperformed expectations, coming in fourth. The poll also found Biden slipping in the electability metric. Joe Biden's electability number has fallen by 17 points in the last 2 weeks, per Quinnipiac's poll, tweeted NBC News reporter Sahil Kapoor. Now, 27% of Democrats say he has the best chance of defeating Trump, down from 44%. Sanders came in second in electability, but within the margin of error at 25%. Former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg was third with 17%. Shows you what money can buy. The rest of the field, even former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who did well in the Iowa caucus, you asshole, he did well because his billionaire friends propped him up, were in single digits. Clearly, Biden's fourth place finish in Iowa has hurt the perception of what was his biggest strength, electability, Quinnipiac poll analyst Tim Malloy said in a statement. So in April, he had 38%, and then it just drops clear down like a rock to 17%. So that other article I just read to you, America's Billionaires Congealing around Warren and Buttigieg, was prescient. The Sanders campaign is looking to win big in New Hampshire's Tuesday primary election. In an email to supporters, Sanders supporter Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat, New York, issued a call to action. "Our time is now," said Ocasio-Cortez. "We are not waiting for another election or another presidency to win social, racial, economic, and environmental justice for all. And we're not waiting, dear listeners, we're not waiting for the Democratic billionaires to beat out the Republican billionaires. We need no billionaires. Zero!" So keep on listening, keep on sharing this message. Bernie's in front. Let's keep him there. Bernie or bust. Bernie or bust. Get on board the Bernie or bust train. Come get on board the Bernie or bust train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board the Bernie or bust train.
The preceding episode can be viewed on the YouTube channel Bernie or Bust Television.